Hello friends, Dale here. I want to do a video today on why Finnsheep. Why did Kendra and I choose Finnsheep? And there's various components to that. But we needed a dual purpose sheep. We needed something that would satisfy Kendra's need for fiber, for wool. She'd been buying wool from shepherds, raw wool, and then processing it. And so fiber was important for Kendra. For me, I wanted a sheep that could be sold for meat. And so there was a good amount of time there where I was looking at two different breeds of sheep. I was looking at something for wool for her and something for meat that we could sell. And it just seemed really complicated to have multiple kinds of sheep for different purposes. So I decided to start looking again. I'd done this search before, but I redid my searching for dual purpose wool and meat sheep. And when I started looking, I soon found Finnsheep. And the Finnsheep are actually a triple use sheep, because there are those who use them for milk as dairy sheep, but we're not interested in milking sheep, so we're looking at it just for the fiber and the meat. And then, when I came across the Finnsheep, it was a breed that I fell in love with really quickly. Didn't take a lot of research, and I'm like, ooh, this is pretty cool. I like these. And one of the first components of the why was that I loved the story of the Finnsheep. I tend to like to tell stories and embellish stories and all that stuff, and so for me, this was a story that I knew I would enjoy telling people, and that, maybe all sheep have their story that would be of interest to people, but this breed I really like the story. So, speaking of the story, let me tell you about the Finnsheep. So, the Finnsheep's predecessors were Viking sheep, meaning the Vikings had them years and years ago in the North Sea. They had them on their ships as they would travel about the North Sea from the various islands, and so they would go to Island A, and at Island A they would stay a while. And before they would leave Island A, they would leave some of their sheep from the ship there to fend for themselves. And then they would go on to Island B, and they'd stay there a while, and then, guess what? They'd leave some sheep there. And then Island C they would go to, and they would leave some of their sheep there. So they knew that in about a year's time they'd be back to Island A. And guess what? When they get there, they'd have sheep that need sheared, and they'd have lambs that were good to eat. Well, that wool that they sheared, they would use to mend their clothing. They would use to fix their sails, and they would use it to make new clothes from. And so the wool was a very important part of their life process, their life cycle. They needed wool in order for that. And then it also, part of their cycle of life was the meat, because they needed meat. And so it was kind of an easy way of providing two of the needs for them, basic needs of their life. And so some of the unique characteristics of Finnsheep are that they are very prolific. They lamb in what they call litters, and I'm not sure, there may be some other breeds of sheep that they call their lambs litters, but the reason they call them litters is because they have multiple births, multiple sheep in a birth, lambs. And so, like maybe ewes first birthing, she may only have 1 or 2 lambs. But after that, she can have 2 to 5 lambs, and there's been recorded 6 and 7 lambs. On YouTube, I found one where it had 7, and they tend to be really good mothers, and they can provide a lot of milk. You get over 3 lambs to 4 lambs, and you're probably going to have to supplement them because they can't produce enough milk for over 3, maybe over 4, depending on the ewe. Part of their being prolific is having many lambs in a birth, and that tends to be, within its genetics. And so for me, I want to have many lambs in a single birth, and so my 2 rams that I already have, they were part of triplets, and they have 3 and 4 lambs in their births for a couple 3 generations back, if I remember right. So if the ewe and the ram both have good genetics as far as multiple births, then you're more likely to have many births. The other thing about their being very prolific is that they can breed 3 times in 2 years. Their gestation period is shorter than most sheep, and they go into heat. They go back ready to be bred as soon as those lambs are born. Basically, they're ready, from what I understand. We'll see how that actually works. But so from those 2 factors, they're quite prolific. How did these Finnsheep come from Finland, which is along the North Sea, and there's like three different breeds of sheep that have come down through the Viking era of sheep, and I don't remember what the other 2 are, but one of them is the Finnsheep from Finland. And how they got to the U.S. is back in the I think that was 90s, I believe. No, 80s. Somewhere in there. The University of Manitoba in Canada, back in the 1980s, early 90s, the University of Manitoba brought some, I believe they were rams, to the university. They did that because they had heard and known about the Finns being very prolific. And so they wanted to get some of that genetics in their flocks of sheep that they were working with as the university. And so they did that, and then within 10 years, I think they sent maybe up to 20 rams, 10, 20 rams into the United States. The commercial breeders of sheep had heard about how the Finns helped to make other sheep more prolific. And so then they were brought in to our country, and I'd read one study of what happened to one commercial flock when they brought in Finn rams to breed with their ewes. And I don't remember what breed that was, whether it was a Dorset or something else, but they took their lambing percentage from about, let's just say about a 1.25 lambs per ewe to about a 1.75 lambs per ewe, which is an additional half of a lamb per ewe. So, on a commercial flock that maybe, 2,000-3,000 sheep, 2,000 or 3,000 ewes, on a commercial flock that could be 2,000 to 3,000 ewes, and you add Finn rams to that, you could end up with an extra 1,000 to 1,500 lambs in one lambing from adding just those Finn rams. So that's what got the breed into the country, and then eventually more sheep, I think, from Finland came. And so anyhow, that's kind of that's the Finnsheep story, is where they came from, how they got here. So eventually I would like to have all purebred registered Finnsheep. Right now the 2 rams I have are purebred registered. They've been registered with the Finn Breeders Association out of Kansas, I believe they are. I'm getting 2 ewes that are ready to lamb, and once they've lambed and they're a couple weeks old, we'll move the ewes and their lambs to our farm. Their genetics, they had been registered with the International Finnsheep Breeders Association, and that one is no longer. That one went under, bellied up or something. I don't know exactly, but there was some antagonism apparently between the International Finnsheep Breeders Association and the Finnsheep Breeders Association on somatics, on what qualifies for a registered Finnsheep. And so when the international one went under, the other group would not allow those registered fins to be moved over into their registration. So the ones that I'm getting will not be registered, and I won't be able to get them registered. There's no chance of getting them registered unless the Finnsheep Breeders Association would change some of their rules, like having a database of blood samples of purebred fins to compare against the ones that came out of the other one. But that's not happening. It could happen in the future maybe, but I'm not holding my breath for that. But it does get me going in the Finnsheep breed. So we also have the Tunis Columbia mix. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 of those ewes, and so we'll have some mixed breed stuff here, partly because of the fiber for Kendra, and partly because that's what was available. But I would hope in a few years we could go to all registered Finnsheep. We'll see what happens there. So anyhow, thanks for joining. Blessings. Have a great evening. Bye.